In this class we're going to talk about stakeholders. Now there are various definitions to the term stakeholders, and here we can look at just 3 of these. First of all, quite simply, a stakeholder is an individual or group with an interest in an organization. So any individual or any group who has an interest in an organization is a stakeholder in that organization. Secondly, any individual or group who can affect or are affected by the achievement of a firm's objective. Those are also stakeholders. And the third definition, or the third way of looking at stakeholders, is to consider groups or individuals that have an interest in the well-being of the company and are affected by the goals, operations and activities of the organization. These are stakeholders. So it's a very wide definition. Anybody or any group who have an interest in an organization are stakeholders in that organization. Now, we can classify stakeholders according to their position in relationship to the organization, relationship to the firm or to the general organization. The first classification we may make is that of an internal stakeholder. For example, an employee or a manager. These are obvious stakeholders because they're interested in the direction, the role, the performance, the behavior of the firm, of the company. We've also got connected stakeholders. For example, shareholders, customers, suppliers, financiers. They're connected to the organization, so they are stakeholders, but they're not working for the organization, they're not internal, they're just connected. So shareholders are connected to the organization, customers are connected through the market, suppliers are connected through production, supply of raw materials and so on. We've also got external stakeholders, for example the government, the community, pressure groups. So the community may have an interest in the company, in its performance, in its behavior, whether it's polluting the atmosphere or causing congestion on the roads, or so the communities tend to have an interest, and they are stakeholders. So this idea of a stakeholder is a very wide concept. It cuts across lots of areas. Now, what we'll do in this session, in this class, is to give broad indications of the type of stakeholders there are, and in what way those stakeholders influence are connected to the organization. How are the stakeholders connected to the organization? So let's have a list of stakeholders, possible stakeholders. For a business, they may be the shareholders, the employees, the customers, suppliers, the creditors, the society, the government, competitors. There may be more we could add on to the list, but as a starting point, that's a fairly lengthy list, and it includes just about everybody. So lots of people are involved as stakeholders in a business. Let's look at shareholders first. We'll go through each one of these very quickly to see what sort of where to stand in the scheme of things. So stakeholders, well, we'll start with shareholders as stakeholders. So we'll have shareholders who are looking for high profits, they're looking for high dividends, they're looking for long-term growth, they're looking for a capital gain on their investment, they're looking for a say in the business, some influence on the business. They want to be associated with a good company, a company that's respected and people like, so they want to have a positive corporate image. And perhaps they want preferential treatment as customers. If you buy shares in a hotel, perhaps you want to stay in the hotel at preferential rates. You don't have to pay the full price for the room or for its facilities, perhaps. So there are many shareholders who will be looking for these particular benefits, but they are stakeholders. Employees are stakeholders. The employees want high pay, job security, they want good working conditions, they want fair treatment, they want fringe benefits, they want health and safety at work, they want promotion prospects, they want training opportunities. So employees want a lot from the business. They're stakeholders. Customers are stakeholders. The customers want low prices for the goods. They want value for money. They want high quality products. They want good service. They want innovative products. They want a certain and a regular supply. They want a choice of goods, for example, variety. And they want good information, clear information about the product. So customers are stakeholders. Suppliers are also stakeholders. They want a long-term relationship with the firm. They want large and high-value contracts. They want frequent and regular orders. They want prompt payment, fair prices. And they want more orders as the firm grows. So they're also stakeholders. They've got an interest in the organisation. Creditors are stakeholders. Creditors who lend perhaps money to the firm, banks and so on, they want prompt payment. They want payment of interest on outstanding debts. They want the repayment as according to the agreement. They want creditworthiness. They want the organisation to be viable. They want positive cash flow to meet obligations. So the creditors are stakeholders. The community is a stakeholder. They want employment prospects. They want to have jobs in the community. They want to safeguard the environment. They want social responsibility from the firm. They want ethical behaviour, good behaviour on the part of its managers and the products they make. They don't want to make products that are going to hurt people or make them ill. They want to make products that are good products, acceptable products. So the community is a stakeholder. The government is a stakeholder. It wants the company to comply with laws and regulations. It wants sufficient use of resources or efficient use of resources. It wants a sufficient supply of resources and for the resources to be used efficiently. It wants employment in the area. It wants the company to make a contribution to the national economy. It wants the company to pay tax. So there are many stakeholders. It's a very wide term, but when we look at a company, we must not just simply look at it as a unitary organisation with perhaps one or two people controlling it and lots of people working for it. But in fact, we must look at it as an organisation in which many groups and individuals are interested in the behaviour and the organisation and the direction in which the company is moving. So the idea of a stakeholder is very wide, it's very important, and we'll meet it many times as you go through your studies in business and management. Most courses have bumped into the term many times over, and it's important to be clear about what's meant by a stakeholder in each context in which you meet it. Okay, that concludes this class, and thank you for joining us.